And now we're going to come in and endorse the policy, which I'm guessing you'll do, majority of the time, is come in here. And now we can see now instead of saying endorse, it says commit and go right into EASYmapping. So again, we'll make this full screen. So now you can see we're in the same policy. We have the fields right here. If you can't remember if you've hit endorse or not, you can tell right down here now we have that green pencil, which is a draw field icon, which we'll get to later, is available. So now I know I'm endorsed in the policy. So we're going to start up top here, kind of move our way around the screen, and then we'll talk about all the icons here later on. So first up here on the top left, we're going to go to what we call the hamburger menu. There's a lot of good information here. I'll go over most of it. Some of it I'll just talk about. This first option, the EASYmapping settings. If we click on that, now these are the settings, kind of layers, labels on the fields that you can see when you're in mapping or in a document, kind of some different preferences you can set here. So you can see here we have 3 different options, tabs we call them, agency, user, policy. Under this first one, if we change anything in here, this is going to be agency-wide. So if we come in here and change these EASYmapping labels right here, now every time in that agency, when you go in, those are going to be the labels. And you can see it's just going to be EASYmapping. We have the 2 different options right here. So anything we change here is going to show up in EASYmapping for that agency. Now, if we want the document labels to be different than what we see in EASYmapping, maybe that farmer wants, or the farmers want to see their farm name, but you don't want to see it in EASYmapping, we can come here under agency to document labels. And now if we add that farm name right here, now anytime a document is printed for this agency, that farm name is going to show along with, in this case, the NAU field number, the field acres, and the FSN. And if we're done, we can hit save, or in this case, we'll move on to the next one. So now this first tab was agency. This next one is for specific users. So based on the username you use to sign into to EasyWriter Pro, these are the labels, or when you change these settings, those are going to be remembered for that login. So again, we have the EASYmapping labels. If you haven't touched it before, this will be checked, the use agency settings. If you don't want that checked and you want your own custom labels when you come into EASYmapping, you can uncheck that box. And now you're able to pick and choose what labels you want to see. And when I say labels, I am talking about the labels right here on the fields. You can see if I'm moving my mouse here. You're going to be able to see different labels than maybe what the agency has. And that's just specific to your individual login. It will not affect anyone else's. But that is available right here. And then same thing with imagery and layers. You can kind of choose, here, default imagery, what imagery you want to see when you get in. If you want to see the CLU field layer turned on or off, you can change that right here, and anything else right here. And this will only be affected in EASYmapping. It will not have any effect on the documents or anything like that. And then the last one is policy. So the policy is strictly for the document. So any EASYmapping documents that may be printed. Maybe there's a case where an agency has all of the farmers want a certain set of labels, but maybe there's a few one-offs where they want different labels than the rest of them. So we can come in here, uncheck the use agency settings box, and now we can just take off the labels they don't want to see. And now when any document is printed for this policy that you're in, these are the labels that are going to be shown on the map. So it's a quick way to kind of customize each individual user setting, or even each individual policies documents to their liking. You don't have to be agency wide anymore. If we are done, we can hit save, and now those will save to those preferences. Up next here, we have documents. This is just another way to get to our policy documents, so I won't go in there. Screenshot document, it is what it says. It's a exact screenshot of whatever you're looking at on the map you're going to get on that screenshot document. Import fields, if we select that, this is just a way to map a policy, another way to map a policy. So you can see if we select import fields, we have shapefile, NAU country GPS, Google Earth. There's a few different file types you can come in here and use to map a policy. This is also where we start if we're doing a precision farming policy, importing those precision shapes into the EASYmapping system. Generate views. This is, if you've been with us for a few years, you know, in the past, you had to, after you mapped a policy, you had to generate the views to get them to show up on our acreage side and in the map books. Now it's done automatically if we can. So there's no more need to really generate views. The only time you'll really have to generate views is on a brand new policy that hasn't been mapped before. And basically all you're doing is telling the system how you want those views sorted or ordered, either by PLSS section or by FSN or FSN and tracked. After you do that, for the most part, it'll automatically generate the views as you add and delete fields throughout the years. Purge fields. This is a way, we don't have any data because this is a test policy, but this is a way to either bring in current or prior year SIMS data from FSA. So basically whatever they certified. We found that the prior year is usually more accurate based on, you know, depending on the time of year that you're in here purging these fields. But if you custom map, so what purge does is it'll wipe away everything you have mapped on the policy and remap it with what that farmer certified at FSA, whether it's the current year or the previous year. Order products and field insights, just another way to get to, you know, our map book ordering screen or to field insights within this policy right here. The next one down, import prior year acreage. This is a handy little tool. If you're in here and you realize, okay, maybe they do a crop rotation, or the way they're planting right now, and we don't have anything available for this, but the way they're planting this year, you know, matches what they did in 2020 or 2019. Instead of retyping all of that information in, we can come in here, select the year if they had a policy with us, and then import that acreage data into our acreage side and kind of get a head start on acreage reporting. You know, there might be some changes or maybe some acres, and obviously plant dates will have to be updated, but it's a nice way to get those lines in there and get a head start on acreage. Map entry, just another way to get to our old map entry reporting system. So we'll kind of skip over that. Compare FTF, this is a new one. This is a good tool to have here. If I were to click on that, what this is doing is you can see it gives us kind of two sets of columns. We have the field columns and the CLU columns. So the field column is going to show us all of the data in the attribute table that we have entered in for that field. And then the CLU column next to it is going to give the CLU information for that particular field. And if there are any differences between the field data and the CLU data, it's going to list it right here. So if we wanted to update any of these, if, you know, maybe FTF was reconned, and instead of coming in here and typing them out one by one or re-entering those fields or deleting them and re-adding them to get that new CLU data, we can come in here and simply click on the ones we want to change, hit update. And after I do that, this field right here will change from FSN 200 tracked 100 to the new FSN 6085 and then 10795 right here. And you can see it also gives a column for CLU last change date. So in this case, I probably wouldn't update those. But if you come in here and see there's a last change date from, you know, April of 2022, you know, okay, maybe there's some new data here. We can update this maybe before even the farmer knows that it's, you know, that before the farmer even knows that they told you. Mass update, quick FTF, just another way to go to our mass update wizard or our quick FTF acreage reporting. Then we have native sod and high risk land viewer. So the high risk land viewer, the high risk layer will be turned on based on the policy you're in. So based on the coverages that are on that policy, the applicable high risk land will be turned on. But if you have someone, if you're in mapping and someone calls or you need to look up some high risk land, you're able to go into our high risk land viewer, fill out crop practice types and different information there and see the high risk for, you know, that area that you selected. So you don't have to get out of the policy and try to find a policy in that area. And then the last one right here is a good one. It's the help icon or help option. And this just will bring you to our EASYmapping help site, which has a lot of great, you know, YouTube videos, user docs for our entire mapping system. And a lot of the YouTube videos are broken down, you know, individualized for a minute or 2 minute clips. You don't have to sit through an hour presentation trying to find, how to split a field. That is always available right here if you ever get stuck and, want to know quickly how to do something within EASYmapping. Then we have the views tab. I'll kind of get to that at the end. After that, acreage production is just ways to get into our acreage and production reporting areas. If we move over here to the top right, we have total acres. The first one is field. So in this case, it says 296.29 acres. That is how many acres are mapped on the policy as you're looking at it. So if I were to add fields or delete fields, that number will either build or decline depending on what I do. And then we have reported. So right now it says 0. There's 0 acres reported. Once acres are reported to this policy or to these fields, this number will start to build, and we can click on that blue hyperlink. It's going to give us some more options. You can break it down. There's no data here, but break it down and view the acres by section, by FSN, by unit, by crop, different things right there. And then the last drop down, the imagery options, you can kind of choose some different imagery options. So if, by default, it's going to be on that fastest. If you want to see a little higher resolution imagery, we can do detailed, or if you don't want to see imagery at all, you can turn that off along with the soil and topo maps right here. So from there, we'll kind of get into the left-hand toolbar right here. So these first group of 6 are just kind of different ways to move around the map. The pan, the little hand tool right here, works just like Google Maps. If you click on that, now click and hold, wherever you drag that map is going to kind of bring you to that area. The zoom in, zoom out, those are just set zoom in, zoom outs. So if I were to click the zoom in, it's going to zoom me in to a set extent. Same thing with the zoom out, it'll zoom me out to a set extent. Or you can always use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in and out right here. The fourth one here, the zoom to extent, if I were to click on that, now I can come in here, click, hold, and drag, and whatever I draw that box around or that shape around is going to zoom me right into that area. So if I know if I'm out here at the farm view and I want to get into an area, because maybe I have to make a split or delete a field or whatever I'm doing, I can zoom right in, right on top of that field or those fields I'm working with, and very quickly right there without having to pan over and manually zoom in, zoom out. With that, if you are into a certain area or if you get zoomed out too far and you want to go back to that, that farming operation we saw when we got into EASYmapping, we can come over here to the magnifying glass with the barn, and that's our zoom to farm view. And that'll bring us right back to that entire farming operation that we saw when we first got into the policy. And then the last one, depending on where you're at in the country, you might see this, you might not, is our zoom to section. So if we were zoomed out here, if you have a bigger policy and you don't want to manually zoom into a section, we can choose zoom to section. If I were to click on section 18 down here, it'll bring me right to section 18. I can do whatever I need to there. If I need to know, okay, I need to go over to section 17 now, I can click in section 17. It's going to bring me right to 17. So a lot of different options on how to zoom in, zoom out, get to certain areas using those tools right there. You're going to get back to the farm view. Up next, we have the identify tool, this blue pin. If I open that up, it's going to pop up a little window on the right side. And now wherever I set that pin down, it's going to give me information for that area that I set that pin down here. And actually for this, let me turn on the CLU layer. And any of these pop-up windows on the left or right, by default, they're going to open up on the right. If you don't mind it there, you can leave it there. Otherwise, we do have the options up here to dock left. So it'll just move it over to the left. And if I were to get out right now, commit the policy, the system will remember that I want this pin or identify tool docked to the left. So next time I open it, it'll be docked over here. You don't have to worry about it over to the right. Or we have that float option right here. And this will float that window here. So I can kind of move it around or move it off the screen if I want to see some maps behind it. Kind of personal preference there. And then I don't know if you notice when I open that map layers, if I have two windows open right here, it's just going to kind of build tabs, kind of like, a Google Chrome or Internet Explorer type, when you're on the internet. So we have Our map layer is turned on. And now if I were to reset that pin down, it's going to give me the state, the county, the legal here, policy fields. If I were to click on the policy field, it gives me all the field data that we have in the attribute table right down here below. Because the CLU layer is on, it's going to give me that CLU information for that field or for that area I clicked. You can see it right here. You can't change anything, just a nice quick way to view the different ones there. And if there was high risk on this policy, we'd have another option right here for high risk, and you can view some information on that high risk land based on where you set that pin down. The next one is the Quick Nav, and this is a very good tool that I think will be used a lot here when mapping a policy. So I open that up. In my Quick Nav, I have it docked to the left. That's just my personal preference. So again, if you want it, to the left, you can move it there. If you want it to the right, kind of wherever you want it. But there's a lot of different options within Quick Nav. So right away, it's going to come in. You can see this fields drop down right here. And it's going to list all of the fields that are mapped on this policy right here. You can see them in what we call the field cards. So if I were to click on any of these, it's going to bring me right to that field and highlight it in red for me. So if the NAU field number or anything like that, we can come in here, click on that field, it'll bring me right there. Or we can search for fields. This is kind of a smart search. So if I were to start typing something in here, it's going to read all of those field cards, and anywhere it sees, in this case, FSN or the number 100 is going to pull them up right here. If I want to narrow it down even more, I can kind of copy those fields right here. And now you can see that list is kind of shrinking, and now it's pulling up only the field cards with FSN 100- or 100-200. If those are the fields I want to work with, I can hit this zoom to select right here. And now it's going to zoom me to those fields and highlight them in red. So if I need to update the FSN or delete them or whatever the case, I have them all highlighted, ready to go right here. If I want to clear that, I can just hit the red or the X up here in the search bar. Or we also have the option right here. It's our filter. So if we open this up, we can choose what we want to filter, by farm serial number, tract, anything right here. We can if we click the little filter icon next to it, it's going to give me all of the FSNs that are on the policy. I can just choose one of them right here. And now it's only going to show me FSN 1000. You can see it down here. Farm serial number equals 1000. I can just clear that out with the X right there. The next one is views. And now this is just going to show all of the views. So the map book views on the policy. So if you have a map book next to you and you're making mapping changes, this should match that map book. So the first map page in the map book will be view number 1 right here. And if I were to click on any of these, it'll open it up, give me a little more information on that view, and zoom me to that view and highlight those fields within the view right here. This next one's the Sims Fields by FTF. This is a big one that I think a lot of people use. If you're mapping a policy, maybe most likely from the 578, or if you have the FSN and tract information next to you, instead of manually trying to zoom around, find those fields, we can come in here. If we type in that FSN, go down to the tract, type in that tract, and now I hit search, it's going to search our CLU layer, bring me to those fields within that FSN and tract, highlight them in red, so I can come over here to the green plus sign. I hit add, and it's going to add them to our table down below here. Apologize for the slowness there. Don't know what that was. But you can see we have the information down here in the table below. So if we have that 578 and we know fields 1 through 4, and then maybe field 8 we have to add to the policy, we can come in here and simply hit this red minus sign, and all that's doing is clearing the selection for that line. So we can come in here, clear the lines we don't need, or if we need all of them, we can leave them. I hit save. It's going to add those 5 fields to the policy. So that's a quick, easy way to, especially off of 578, to search for fields, add multiple fields at once to the policy. Up next, we have the Sims Fields by lat long. So if you have a latitude and longitude here, you can type that in. It's going to zoom you to that area, highlight the CLU that it lands on, so you can add the field that way. Policy sections, this is just listing all of the sections. So if obviously if you're not in an area with section data, this will kind of be unusable for you, but it's going to list all the sections that are on the units on the policy. So you can see in this case, there's two sections on the units here. So it's going to list them right here. If I were to click on either one of them, it'll bring me to that section. Next up, we have all sections. So maybe if you're adding land here and maybe that section doesn't have a unit set up for it yet, you just want to get the fields added because you're already in EASYmapping. We can come in here, select the county, either by clicking the drop down, or if we start typing it in, it's a smart search that's going to pull up. We're going to tab off of that. Now we can select the township range within that county, select the section. When I hit go, it's going to zoom me to that section within that township range and county. So now we can add the fields or do whatever we need to do here before, we can quickly find that section before units are even set up. The next one, cities, just kind of a list of cities in the state. It obviously doesn't have them all, but if I were to click on any of these, it's going to bring me to that city in that area. So you can kind of help zoom around, maybe find some different things. And then units. So after it's going to list all the units, the field cards will kind of fill out if acres are reported to them. So you can quickly kind of verify, units and acres and how many fields are reported to them right here. And then the last one is townships. And that just gives a list of the township names that we have. So you can see here, the township name of Afton in Cherokee County. And then if we scroll over a little bit, it also gives the township range number right here. So if I were to click on that, it's going to pull me to that area right here. Up next, we have map layers, which you kind of saw a little bit ago here. But if we open map layers, now these are all of the layers that you're going to see while you are in EASYmapping. So let me just get back to the farm view here. So now keep in mind, we did the EASYmapping settings up top. So this will not affect that, but if there's a time, if you have the CLU layer on and you want to turn it off, you can come in here and turn it off just kind of for this session that you're in working. Next time you come into another policy, it's going to respect your EASYmapping setting preferences that we showed before. But the first one, policy fields. So if you don't want to see those, maybe you want to see some imagery behind it, you can just shut those off. The fields aren't deleted, they're just kind of hidden, so you don't see them. If you were to print the map book, it'd still print those fields on there. We're going to turn those back on. Right away is going to be default, so that gray color that a lot of you are probably used to. Once acres are reported to fields, it'll automatically switch to the crop colors, and it'll show the color of that crop based on what that color is. So, most likely if it was a cornfield, fields will start to show yellow, or soybeans will be blue, and so on. This next one, the Sims field, this is a big one. So depending on your preferences, you can have this on, off, or if you need to just do a one-off, you can come in here. And right now I have that CLU layer on. You can see the white lines here with the acres inside of it. If I'm not adding any fields and maybe they're just getting in the way, I don't want to see them, I can come in here, uncheck the Sims fields box, and then the CLU layer you can see right here will go away. So now you don't have to worry about the white lines or do anything like that, kind of blocking your view. Now, if I want to turn them back on, I can just come back in here, select Sims fields, they'll pop back on. The next one, the FCI 33 maps are high risk land. So kind of like we said earlier, if there is high risk on the policy, this will automatically be checked and that appropriate high risk land layer will be on. So if you don't want to see it when you're mapping, you can turn that off. That's available right here. Then we have the sections with units, is the purple boxes that you see right here. So that means that this section is on a location of at least one unit. So that's why it's showing that purple box. Policy views, if we were to turn that on, you can see it has a little bigger box that's blue, and that's just representing, the map book view, what it looks like, or the view within the acreage side. And a PRF policy will have the rainfall index on. If you want to turn it on in a different policy just to look at something, you're able to do that. And then we just have some different options here. Township, if you want to see or don't see any of these layers, you can turn them on or off, as you want here. If you want to see townships without name or with name, you can put them on right here. And then roads, cities, if you want to see those layers or not, you have the ability to turn them on or off right here. So that is map layers. So next we'll kind of get into, I guess, what I call the meat and potatoes of EASYmapping, kind of where you're going to go to do everything as far as editing the maps. And that's all going to be underneath the arrows and below. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that this arrow is selected, this top one right here. Now we can either select fields, select CLUs. So we're going to start with selecting existing fields. And again, we can select them one at a time, or if we click and hold and draw, whatever shape that is that you draw, it's going to highlight every field that touches that. So now I have 4 fields highlighted right here. The nice thing with our system is it reads your first selection. So in this case, I selected an existing policy field. So it will not allow me to select any CLUs. Same thing, if I were to select the CLU first, it's not going to allow me to select any existing policy fields. It's kind of a smart selection tool, so it's going to read your first selection and only allow you to select those until these fields are cleared or you're done working on these fields. So I have 4 fields selected. If I, just by clicking on them or dragging, now if I accidentally click this one, I don't want that selected because I don't need to work on it. I can just click it again, that selection goes away. Or I can hit the arrow with the red X, and that just deselects your entire selection right here, so you can kind of start over. But with that, we're going to select a few fields here. And now I'm going to go to the field attributes. And all of these icons now from here on out, they are available over here on the left, or we can right click and they're available in our right click option. So it's all personal preference. I personally like the right click option. I don't have to go back and forth. So that's probably what I'll use the rest of the way, but we do have both options available, kind of whatever you want to do there. So if I have the field selected, I hit field attributes. It's going to give me all of the information down below for those fields. So you can see here we have the NAU field number, the FSN tract, FSA field number. If there is a farm name, it would show right here. Then we have field acres and then even the CLU information right here. So if I need to update any of this, I can do that right here. So if I need to update one of these FSNs, I can come in here and type in, if it changed from FSN 100 to FSN 200, I can change that right here in that one field. Now, if I were to hit save, would be FSN 200. The nice thing in here is if you're bulk editing or adding farm names to multiple fields or updating FSN on multiple fields, instead of coming in here and updating it one at a time, we can select the fields that are going to be updated to that same farm name, let's say in this example, and we can hit bulk edit, and it's going to pull up our bulk edit window. And now anything I type in here, so let's just go FSN 300, and we're going to put a farm name of test. And when I hit apply, it's going to filter down and fill that out for every field I have selected. So instead of coming in one by one, changing that FSN and adding that farm name, I just had to type that in once for each location in that bulk edit window, and it's going to populate down to the rest of the fields. So that's our acreage attribute window. If you need to change anything in there, if you realize maybe you did some wrong fields, you can just hit undo. It's going to revert back to what it was, or I can hit save, and now those changes will be saved onto the policy and to those fields. So that's updating existing field data, adding new fields. If we showed that quick FTF searching by FSN and tract, or if you have maps and you just want to come in here and select the fields, you're able to do that as well. So we can do that if we have the CLU layer on, so we have to make sure that is turned on. We can come in here and it's just like selecting existing fields. We can either click one at a time, or if we click and hold, whatever that case rectangle is touching, it's going to highlight here. Now you can see those are highlighted in red for me. I can go over to the left to the green plus, or right click, hit add Sims fields. It's going to create these fields kind of like we saw before. It's going to pop that attribute table down below. So if you need to change anything or update anything, add anything to it, you're able to do that right here. I hit save. Now those 4 fields in this case will be added to the policy. So that's an easy way to add fields with that CLU, just by clicking on them and adding them. Now, there are times where maybe there is no CLU for an area, and you need to get that field added, whether, they've never gone to FSA before, or maybe FSA, hasn't passed up the data and we haven't got it yet for that new CLU, but you need to get that field added to the policy. We still have the ability to draw that field in manually. So if I were to select the draw tool over here on the left, now I can come in here, I can start in the corner, I click, I bring my mouse over, you can see a red line start to appear. Now every time I click is going to be a point in that field. So I can come in here, do the shape I want here. If that looks good, I can double click. It'll set that shape down. It's going to give me the attribute table below. Now when I did this, I was completely inside a CLU, so it grabbed that CLU information. In most cases, if you're doing this, you're not going to have a CLU, so that FSN tracked FSA field number will be blank. You can fill that out if you need to. If you don't have it at the time, don't worry about it. You can leave it blank. That's fine, and come back later if you get it down the road or whatever the case is. The system's going to automatically calculate the acres based on where you drop those lines right here. So if that doesn't match up, don't worry about it. As long as the shape looks good to you visually, if it looks correct, we can come in here and change those acres to whatever they need to be. So I can hit save. Now it's going to set that field down at 7.23 acres. So as long as that shape looks good, that field looks good, just update the acres to whatever they need to be for you to get that field added to the policy. So up next, we'll delete a field. So if we're in here and maybe they sold the field or got rid of the field or whatever the case is, we can come in here and select that field, or again, multiple fields all at the same time. And we can either go to the left or right click and do delete fields. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to permanently delete the selected fields? I can hit yes. It's going to delete those fields, and now those 3 fields will be off of the policy. So you don't have to be in a section level to do that. You can do that in kind of this whole zoomed out farm view right here. Up next, we're going to get in a little tighter on these fields here. And if I were to select this field, we're going to split this field. So if they plant one crop on the the north half and the other different crop on the south half, and you guys want to see that split line to get the different colors, you can do that right here. We're just going to select the field we need to split. I'm going to right click, hit split field. You can see that field, the gray will go away. So if you have to cut around anything or see anything on the imagery, you're able to do that right here. And now I'm going to start outside of the field I'm splitting, bring my line in, and just like drawing a field, every time you click is a point in that split line. Bring it over, and I'm going to end outside the field I'm splitting, double click. It's going to set that line down, give you a little preview up here. All of the data from that field will be separated into now the 2 different fields. And just like drawing a field, if the acres don't match up, you don't have to worry about it. As long as that split line looks good to you, it looks like it's in the right spot, we can come in here and update those acres to whatever they need to be right here. Hit save. Now that one field is separated out into 2 fields at the acres that we entered in. So now we have 2 separate fields. Maybe next year they are planting that all as once. We have to merge those fields back together. In that case, we can come in here. We can select those 2 fields. You can select more than the 2 fields too. You can merge 3, 4, doesn't matter. The only rule or stipulation we have is they have to be contiguous. So the farmer has to be able to plant them all as one field without any breaks in there to be able to be merged. We can select the fields we want to merge. Come in here, select merge fields. It's going to now combine that data from both fields, and any matching data is going to put it in right here. So if they had 2 different farm names, let's say on these 2 fields, this farm name would be blank because there's 2 different farm names. You'd have to retype that in, but in this case, everything matches. It's going to add up the acres, which in this case, you probably won't have to change, but you can if you need to. You can hit save. And now what was 2 fields will be combined into 1 field. The next one on the list is an island cut. So if there's a rock pile or a pond or something in the middle of a field you want to split out, you don't want to see that on the field because they're never going to plant that. It's not even part of the field. We can come in here, select the field we want to do that island cut for. Right click, I'm going to choose the island cut field. And now that imagery is going to go, or that field color is going to go away. It's just like drawing a field. We can come in here, kind of point around our clicks. When it looks good, we're going to double click. It sets it down. Now it's going to take this field minus the portion you cut out and populate those acres again. Just make sure it looks visually correct. We can change these acres if we need to, whatever they need to be. When I hit save, it's going to split that area out and delete that little portion in the middle here. For that, 1 second here, I'm just going to merge these two together for the next one. So that's a quick way to cut something out in the middle of a field. Up next, we have the reshape. So if they have this field and maybe there is a house or a barn over here in the corner that they took down and now they're planting that area. And, if there's no CLU or whatever the case is, we just need to reshape this field, make it a little bit bigger right here. We can select that field. I'm going to right click, come to the reshape field. And now to reshape, to add more to it, we're going to start inside the field we're reshaping. Click, bring it out, come in here, get whatever area we need. And now we're going to end inside the field we are reshaping. Double click. It's going to take this field, add on this little portion that we drew. Again, if the acres need to be updated, you can update the acres right here. As long as that looks good to you after what you drew in there, we hit save, and now that field has that little portion added to it. So that's reshaping. Next, the island cut, or excuse me, the pivot cut. So if you have any irrigated pivots and you want to see, the non-irrigated corners and that irrigated circle in the center, instead of coming in here and maybe splitting the fields with the lines, it's a lot of manual work here. We can come in here, select the field we want to add that pivot cut to. Choose the pivot cut option. We're going to place that kind of in the center of our field. And by default, it's going to draw. I'm going to move this window out of the way here, this pop up. It's going to draw a quarter section pivot. So, depending on what field, it maybe it's perfect right away and you don't have to do anything. Otherwise, we can come in here and change either the diameter in feet or the area in acres, whatever they need to be. And you can see as I change it, that pivot changes size. So if that looks like the right size, but I just need to move it, I can click on it. It's going to highlight. And now when I drag it over, you can see that circle will start to move so I can put it wherever I need it to go. So we're going to find that right spot. If this is the case, we can release it. When I hit OK, it's going to set that pivot down, separate out those fields. Again, if you have to, you can change the acres. Just make sure that pivot looks like it's in the right spot to you based on the imagery or whatever data you have. Then update the acres to what they need to be. We can hit save. And now that field will be split out, in this case, the 4 separate fields, but I guess in a normal pivot, it'd be 5. So that is kind of everything as far as EASYmapping. I know that's a lot to go over in a short amount of time. With this system, we tried to make it as user-friendly as possible and as easy as possible. So get in there, play around, kind of get used to it. Once you get in there and get used to it, you can find it is very easy to use. So up next, we're going to kind of go into views. We have a little bit of time left to kind of look at our custom view option within the policy. So to do that, we can come right over here to the views tab up on the top. It's going to move us to our views. You can see here we have our map book. Right now we have 2 views on the policy. You can see the blue boxes that we saw before are now showing right here because we are in our views. So right away by default, or if you do the generate up on the top left, it's going to be the generic, either FSN views or section views, depending on the area or what you chose. So if we want to do anything custom to them, we have a few different options in here. First is we have a map mode up here, so it's going to tell us how the views are generated. If we want to change that map mode, it's just like generating the views. We can do it right here by PLSS, by FSN, FSN and tracked. Or for this case, we're going to do as an empty set. If I were to choose an empty set, we just have to choose the mode. I hit create, and this is a good way to start if you're coming in here and you know you have to make a lot of custom views to the policy. You know, now we don't have to worry about merging and doing things like that with every single view. We can just kind of come in here and draw our views and move on. So there's a couple ways to create views. We can come over here to the pencil and draw a view. So now if I were to click and hold and drag and draw a box, you can see as soon as a field is fully encompassed inside that box, it's going to turn green. I can get it to the area I want it. Release. Now I created a view for those fields. Right now we have one view on this policy. It's going to show those 3 fields. Another way to draw or to do custom views is to simply just click on the field. We can choose the fields we want to put together on one view. And now I'm going to come over here to the plus sign, hit create view, and it's going to draw a view around the fields I have selected. So that's just a quick way to come in here, grab fields, and then click the plus sign to create a view. So right now I have 3 views. They're still, you can see it has the green, which means that they are a part of a view. These yellow fields still have no views attached, or they're not attached to any views. So we know we still have to clean that up. But before we get into kind of cleaning that up, we're going to talk about kind of merging and adjusting, maybe modifying some different views. So if we have these views and maybe we added these fields in and we want to maybe combine some of these fields with this view right here, we can select the view we want to add fields to. And now we can come over here to the left and we have the toggle icon. If we were to select that, now all we have to do is click on any of these fields right here that, you know, it's going to pop up that green plus, meaning it's available to grab. And you can see as soon as I click on them, they turn green, and that view even expands to accommodate the fields you clicked on. So we can choose the views we want right here. Same thing as adding or selecting an EASYmapping. If we don't want this field anymore, we can just simply click on it again, and those fields will be taken out of that view, and that view size will adjust based on what you have selected or deselected. But for this case, we're just going to come in here and click on those. We can hit complete in the bottom left, and now I create or added those fields to that other existing view. Deleting a view works, you know, just like mapping. We select the view we want to delete. We can come up here, hit delete, and it's going to delete that view. The last icon, there's 2 more icons I want to show you here. Is the next one is merge. So if we have 2 separate views right here for these 2 sets of fields, and now we want to merge them together and put them on one view, we can come in here, select those views, and we can hit the merge views button. And now it's going to take those views, combine them into one view. So now instead of the 2 views, you have one view for that set of fields. With that, once I have a view selected, I can come in here, hit modify. And now I'm able to kind of either, if I grab any of these white squares, I can modify that view if I want to make it bigger or smaller. Keep in mind, if you get inside of a view here or a field, it's going to deselect that field. It will not be part of that view anymore. Or if we grab the blue line, we can move that entire view around if we wanted to. Looks good. I can hit complete right here, and now I have 2 views. Our last button here is complete the set. So if we made all of our custom views, and maybe there's still some fields out there that just need generic FSN views or generic section views, depending where you're at, and you don't want to draw those out, because I understand who would. We can come in here, choose complete the set, and now any fields that do not have a view, it's going to automatically create a generic section view or FSN view based on the map mode of the policy. So now we didn't have to create those manually. We just hit a button and it's going to do it for the rest of the policy. So that is all of the views here. Now you can see we have 3 views right here. The only thing we'd have to do is hit save. I do want to show one more thing in here. So we have an option for custom units. So depending on the areas, if you have units set up and maybe you don't want to see them on on a certain view. Maybe they go to a different view, but they also have the location of, section 2, and you don't want to see them on section 2, or whatever the case is. We can come in here, select that view that we want to do those custom units to, and then over on the top right, we have use custom units. If I were to click on that, over on the left side, we have now, it's the field, so it lists all the fields in that view, and then we have a units box. So now right here, these are all of the units that are assigned to that view as we look at it right now. If we want to take any of these off, all we have to do is hit the icon next to the unit name and number, the crop and number right here. If I don't want to see this wheat unit on this view anymore, I can select that icon. It says, are you sure you want to assign the unit? I hit yes. And now if I were to get out and preview the map book or go into our acreage side, that wheat unit will no longer show up on this view. The only thing to keep in mind with that is if that wheat unit doesn't show up on any other view on the policy, it's going to add a blank page at the end of the book because we have to show that unit on an acreage report. But if it is on a different view on the policy, there'll be no blank pages added at the end. And it's only going to show on the pages you choose it to show on. So this is a quick way, a nice way to maybe hide some units you don't want to see that are stretching across multiple views, so you don't have that big list in the map book or on the acreage side. Same thing, if you want to add that unit back in, maybe the next year, okay, I need to add that back into that view. I can come over here to that assigned units icon right above the fields in the units tab. It's going to show me the checked ones are the ones that are currently showing on that page. If I want to add that wheat unit back in, I just have to check that box. When I hit OK, that wheat unit is right back in there, ready to go. So a quick way to hide and show different units on locations right here. And then the last thing I want to show you in here is how to sort views. So by default, it's going to go in numerical order, whether it's FSN or PLSS. But if I want to, I guess two more things, I'm sorry. Sort any of these views, I can come in here, choose the sort view on the top right. And now it's going to give me a list of all of the views I have on my policy. So I'm able to click on one and I can move it down, send it to the bottom if I click on one down here. So if I move this here, it moves down one. If I send it to the bottom, it's going to go all the way to the bottom of the list. I can kind of order these how I want. So when I'm flipping through the map book or going through the acreage side in EASYmapping, it's going to be my specific order that you or the farmer wants right here. And another thing within sort views, you're able to name these views right here. If we come in here, we can name, click on the name column, type in whatever name you want right here. When I hit save, you can see that name's going to pop up right here, and you can name them over here on the right side as well. Pop up right here. Now when we go to the acreage side, that name's going to pop up on the view. And if you were to print a map book on top of the view in blue writing, it's going to say that view name. So that's another option within views right here. Other than that, if we're done in views, all we have to do is hit save. If you forget to hit save, don't worry, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to exit without saving? You can just save it then. Now we can save here. If we were to close EASYmapping, commit the policy, anything I've done in EASYmapping and on the view side will be saved. And now next time I come in here or print a map book or generate a map book or anything like that, those changes will be reflected on those books. With that, like I said earlier, that is a lot to go over in a short amount of time, but that is our EASYmapping system. So hopefully you guys can pull some things out, learn something new, maybe get in there, play around, get familiar with it if you're not already, and actually see firsthand how easy it is to use once you are in there. So any questions do arise. I know Adam's doing his best here to answer questions. But any other questions after the fact do arise, feel free to reach out. Let us know. We can talk through it, email back and forth, kind of whatever works there to get you comfortable or get your questions answered. With that, that is all I have. So thank you for joining our EASYmapping training. And hopefully we'll see you at the next one.